Titi Leopade Tabaya Kunamio Pujin Apian Pavana Yango Peace on the Mel Silver.
The fourth factor is the attempt to fulfill the Vipassana or Bhavana, the meditative insights, to complete the meditative insights through making sure that certain suitable conditions are met.
Hari Sabaya Konamura Lungere Lee Loka Hoge Babi Council Log by Poya Tita Yung Jamiro Pure.
If you can recall, Sayadaw talked about the 7 types of suitability some time ago, and quite detailed. Tonight, however, the Sayadaw will merely mention these 7 headings to refresh your memory.
Very Kunamura Ti Awasa Sabaya Nia Tangi Simpijan. Simpido Nia Tangi Ni Kojara Sabaya Yano Yama Solushi Sungan Yua Simpijan. Hiro Machesadin on Yama Machesajin, Chesadin and Yama Chesajin. Bido Badata Baya Tinlio de Diazaga Chana in Swinujin. Hiro Pogolata Baya Changing Nimia Jimoli Boku Simpijan, 2 have been Comatansia. The Bozanata Baya Asata Simpijan. Ruta Baya Abu A Yadigu Miatajan. Now Uriab Tata Baya, Dwaya Tiny Uriabu Limu Yatajans. And if Miatajan Konomu Tindalo, I don't believe she go up Shibu. That I would read the Mari Pina Diari Teta Akona Tate, 2 have Yabinyari Teta Akona
Tate. The first of these suitabilities is that of place. This refers to a quiet and a quiet place for meditation, like a retreat center. The second refers to suitability of resort. This means that a monk should have a proper village to depend on for his alms round, and one should also avoid going to places which may cause distractions to one's meditation. The third is suitability of speech. Practically, this means suitability with regards to Dhamma discussion, not too much, and to the listening of appropriate Dhamma talk. Again, just the right amount and not in excess. Fourthly, there is the suitability of person, referring particularly to the meditation master, a suitable and competent meditation teacher, as well as a harmonious and conducive, supportive environment, community. The fifth suitability is that of is suitability of food, which we talked about quite at length the last time. The sixth is suitability of weather, a place where weather is not too harsh, so that the body can be easily maintained and taken care of for the sake of striving in one's meditation. Finally, we have suitability of posture. There is one is required to balance one's posture in practice of standing, walking, sitting, lying, and the other minor postures.
Edi konoမျိုးထဲမှာပတ္တတဘာယနဲ့ပတ်သက်ပြီးတော့နည်းနည်းပြောစရာအထူးလေးရှိလို့ထပ်ပြီးတော့ပြောပြရစီဦး
Of these 7 types of suitabilities, Sayadaw would like to speak a little on the suitability of speech.
ပတ္တတဘာယကတော့ကျမ်းဂန်များမှာယောဂီတွေနဲ့အသက်ဆိုင်ဆုံးဖွင့်ထားတာတော့တပ္ပါယဓမ္မတဝနာလို့ဆိုပါတယ်တင့်တော်တဲ့တရားစကားကြားနာခြင်းလို့ဆိုပါတယ်ကြားနာခြင်းဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ဆွေးနွေးခြင်းလည်းဒီထဲမှာပါသွားပါတယ်ဒါတော့ပဲဆိုပါတယ်အဲ့ဒီရဲ့ဆန့်ကျင်ဘက်ကတော့အကျိနဲ့တရားထုတ်တဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်များသမာဓိပညာရဲ့ဆန့်ကျင်ဘက်ဖီလာဖြစ်တဲ့တိဋ္ဌာနာကထာတွေပေါ့လေအဲ့ဒါဒီမပြောရဘူးရစကားရွာစကားဈေးစကားဒါတွေလည်းမပြောရဘူးတရားနဲ့ပတ်သက်တဲ့ကိစ္စပင်ဖြစ်စေအတိုင်းအတာရှိရမယ်ဒီလိုဆိုမိတ်ချက်ရှိပါတယ်လွန်သွားလို့ရှိရင်တရားမှာအနှောက်အယှက်ဖြစ်မှာဆိုလို့ဟန်တားတဲ့သဘောပါပဲ
In the commentary on the term suitability of speech, it is explained that speech here refers to the listening to Dhamma talks. One can include this listening to Dhamma talks. One can include in this listening to Dhamma talk, Dhamma discussion too. But this, of course, should be taken, or one should participate in such activities sparingly and just the right amount. Yogis should particularly refrain from engaging in conversations on various other subjects, like what is called animal speech, which refers to talk on food, on place, on business, on economics, and politics, and so forth.
ဒီကိစ္စနဲ့ပတ်သက်ပြီးတော့မြတ်စွာဘုရားအကျိတ်နဲ့တရားထုတ်နေတဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်များတရားမြတ်မှန်တရေးအတွက်အမှန်ကျင့်တနာတော်မူပြီးတော့အပပတဘိက္ခွေဟောထဗတ္တိပရိယန္တာကာရီနောလို့ဆိုမိတ်ချက်ရှိပါတယ်ဘိက္ခုတို့စကားပြောလို့ရှိရင်အမှတ်ကျဲတာနော်ကိလေသာဝင်တာနော်စကားနည်းကြပါတဲ့အလွဲတာလို့ရှိရင်တော့တခါတရံတော့ပြောရတာရှိတာပါလိအဲ့ဒါလိုပြောခွင့်ကြုံပြီဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ဗတ္တိပရိယန္တာကာရီနောဆိုတာပြောခွင့်ကြုံတဲ့အခါမှာအကန့်အသတ်လေးထားပါတယ်ယောဂီနဲ့မအဆက်တဲ့စကားမပြောပါနဲ့အဆက်တဲ့စကားပင်ဖြစ်စီအတိုင်းအတာလေးရှိတဲ့အဲ့ဒီလိုအတိုင်းအတာနဲ့ပြောတဲ့အခါမျိုးမှာလည်းအမှတ်လှုပ်ပြီးတော့ပြောရမလားလို့ဆိုတော့ဗာတိတိတမ္ပဇနကာရီဟောတိဆိုတာ ပြောတဲ့အခါမှာလည်းပဲပြောမဲ့အချက်လက်ဒီစဉ်းစားမှုကအစပါလေပြောမှုနဲ့စပ်ပြီးတော့အကုန်လုံးစိတ်အမူအရာရုပ်အမူအရာတွေအကုန်လုံးလိုက်မှတ်ပါတဲ့ဒီလိုဆိုပါတယ်
The purpose behind this restriction of speech is not very difficult to see. The purpose is to prevent distractions from occurring in the mind of the yogi who is trying his or her level best to be mindful. In fact, the Lord Buddha, out of deep compassion for meditating yogis, once said that for an ardent meditator, speech should not be indulged in. If indeed speech is recourse to frequently, it will cause much distraction. Therefore, one should try to avoid speech as much as possible. But at times when it becomes necessary to talk, one should limit one's conversation. One should also be mindful in the process of speaking. Starting right from the point when there is a desire to speak and there is the thoughts that occur in the mind on what to say and how to say it. One should be mindful of all such thoughts, all such mental preparations before speaking, as well as the actual act of speaking itself, the physical movements involved, maybe gestures, or the movements of your lips, your mouth, your face, and so forth. All of these should be made the object of mindfulness.
ဒီကိစ္စနဲ့ပတ်သက်ပြီးတော့ဗုဒ္ဓစာပေဘုဒ္ဓထိုက်တဲ့လောက်ရှိတဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်များအထူးသတိထားစရာအချက်ကလေးတွေပါပဲပြီးတော့စာပေဘုဒ္ဓရှိပြီးတော့ထိုက်တန်သမျှတရားအလေးလာရှိတဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်များဆိုရင်တာပြီးတော့သတိထားစရာကောင်းပါတယ်အဲ့ဒီဟာနဲ့ပတ်သက်ပြီးတော့ဘုန်းကြီးကိုရွေပေါ့လေအကြောင်းအရာလေးတစ်ခုပြောပြရစီ
This point should particularly be noted by those of you who have some knowledge of Buddhist scriptures, as well as those who have studied the Buddhist scriptures to some extent. To further drive in the point, the Sayadaw would like to talk of a personal experience he had.
လွန်ခဲ့တဲ့နှစ်အနည်းငယ်ကဘုန်းကြီးကြုံခဲ့တဲ့မြို့သားယောဂီတယောက်ပေါ့လေအဲ့ဒီပုဂ္ဂိုလ်ကြီးဟာအစိုးရဝန်ထမ်းပေါ့လေအကြီးတန်းတော်အရာကြီးပါတယ်သူကတော့အငြိမ်းစားပါပဲသူကဗုဒ္ဓစာပေလည်းပဲထိုက်တန်သမျှအလေးလာရှိထားပါတယ်ပါဠိစာပေတော့သင်တာတော့မဟုတ်ပါဘူးနေတရားတို့ဘာတို့ဒါတွေကြည့်တာဟိုစာကြည့်တာထိုက်တန်သမျှလည်းတရားအလေးလာတာရှိဘူးပါတယ်ဒါပေမဲ့လို့သူဟာတော့မပြည့်စုံပါဘူးသူကကမ္မထဆရာကြီးလုပ်နေတာနောက်အဲ့ဒီပုဂ္ဂိုလ်ရိတ်တာရောက်လာပြီးတော့ဘုန်းကြီးနဲ့ပထမဆုံးတိုးတာပါပဲ
Some years ago, there was a very high-ranking government official who had just retired. or he had retired. He was a very ardent Buddhist. He read a lot on Buddhist scriptures and literature, depending on the numerous translations, numerous fine translations available in Burma, in Burmese, on the Buddhist scriptures. He had also spent some time meditating, and though his meditation was not quite complete, his practice was not very deep and strong, but he had a lot of general knowledge, and he wanted to teach, so he became a teacher. One day he came and started to talk to the Sayadaw.
Diနေ့လိုရိတ်တာရောက်လာပြီးတော့နောက်နေ့မှာဘုန်းကြီးနဲ့ပထမဆုံးစတွေ့တော့ဘုန်းကြီးကအခြားခြားယောဂီတွေအထုတ်ပုံတွေစာရွေးနဲ့လက်တွေ့နှစ်ခုပေါင်းစပ်ပြီးတော့ပြောကြတဲ့အလေးရှိပါတယ်လက်တွေ့ကဒီလိုရှိတယ်စာရွေးကဟောဒီလိုဆိုထားတယ်ဆိုတာပေါ့ပါဠိလေးတွေထုတ်ပြီးတော့ဘုန်းကြီးကညွှန်ပြတာအဲ့လိုညွှန်ပြတဲ့အခါသူကဘုန်းကြီးညွှန်ပြတဲ့ပါဠိတွေဘယ်ကျမ်းကပါတာပဲဖေဘယ်လိုဆုံးမိတ်တာပဲဖေဆိုတာသူကအဓိပ္ပာယ်တွေကျမ်းညွှန်နေလဲပြောအဓိပ္ပာယ်တွေသူကတန်းတတ်ပြီးတော့ပြောသွားတယ်ဒီတော့ဘုန်းကြီးကဟန်တာပါတယ်ဒီကကြီးအထုဖို့လာတာဆိုရင်ဒီကညွှန်ကြားတဲ့အတိုင်းပဲအထုပါလို့ကိုယ်အလှည့်ကြမှာပဲပြောတာပေါ့လို့အခြားကိစ္စတွေသူနဲ့မဆိုင်တဲ့ကိစ္စတွေဝင်ပြီးတော့ဆွတ်တော့ဘုန်းကြီးကဟန်တာပါတယ်ပရိယာနဲ့ဟန်တာပါတယ်ဒါပေမဲ့မရဘူးနောက်တနေ့လဲဒီလိုပဲနောက်တနေ့လဲဒီလိုပဲနောက်၄ရက်မြောက်ရောက်တဲ့အခါကျတော့ဘုန်းကြီးကသူခဏနာလေးပြောပြီးတော့တွေ့ရတော့တာပဲ
Sayadaw is in the practice, as a practice of explaining the whole meditation instructions to yogis upon the second day of arrival at the yekta, at the meditation center. You would explain to them the course of practice and also try to compare the practical work with the scriptural texts. You would say that in practice this is what you do, but in theory this is what it is said. And he would try to reconcile any sort of apparent differences. Now this gentleman who came to the yekta, to the meditation center, as a yogi, as a beginning yogi, started to ask the Sayadaw, from where did that quotation come from? You know, what is the reference? Can you give me the reference, please? Which text? And what is the interpretation? And so forth. Sayadaw, of course, politely told him that as a yogi, you should put aside such questions and just concentrate on your task of meditation. So he went away, and the next day, in the interview session, again the same thing happened. He wanted to know the reference. He wanted to know the interpretations of the Pali words. And Sayadaw again tried to be polite to him and tried to get him back to practice. But he was adamant, and he kept doing that for the second day, for the third day. And on the fourth day, out of compassion, Sayadaw had to speak quite harshly to him.
Bông Nhi à, mà tuân lại bà đấy, tu ha, để cái dia lulu la ram hậu phu, tu phu tu ra đi, vậy ta làm việc đó, bia gì lulu, လာတဲ့တကာကြီးပဲလို့ဒီလိုပဲတွက်လိုက်ပါတယ်
သူကိုတဲ့သူကိုတဲ့လားသူကို
မဟုတ်ဒီကတွက်လိုက်တာပဲ
သူကိုပြောလား
မဟုတ်ပြောတော့ပြောစိတ်ထဲကတွက်လိုက်တာဒီလိုစိတ်ထဲကထင်လိုက်တာ
Sayadaw thought at that time that this person had come to the yekta, to the meditation center, not because he really wanted to meditate, but because he was trying to show off his general knowledge.
ဒီတော့သူပြောရတယ်ဒကာကြီးတို့ဒကာကြီးကတပည့်ဖြစ်နေလာတာလားဆရာဖြစ်နေလာတာလားလို့ဘုန်းကြီးကတပည့်လားဒကာကြီးကဆရာလားလို့ဘုန်းကြီးကဆရာလားဒကာကြီးကတပည့်လားလို့မေးတာတပည့်တော်ကတပည့်ပေါ့ဗျာတဲ့ပြီးတော့ဓမ္မအထုတ်ခြင်းလို့လာတာပဲတဲ့သူကဒီလိုပြောပါတယ်
And Sayadaw asked him, "Why are you here? Did you come to the yekta to be a student or to be a teacher? Are you the teacher? Are you the student and am I the teacher? Or am I the student and you're the teacher?" And he said, "Well, of course I came here to be a student and you are the teacher," he said.
တခါကြီး3ရက်ဖြစ်ရှိပြီလို့ဘုန်းကြီးတားနေတာဒကာကြီးကလူကြီးလူကောင်းဆိုတော့ရင်ကြီးနဲ့ဘုန်းကြီးကတားနေတာ3ရက်လုံးတားမရဘူးလို့ဒကာကြီးကအခုဘာနဲ့တူလဲဆိုတော့သရိုးသားဗိဒ္ဓိဆရာနဲ့တူးနေပြီလို့
သရိုးသားပရိစ္ဆေ
bright groomed principle
Oh. And Sayadaw said, "Well, I've been trying to prevent you from doing what you have been doing for the last 3 days in a very polite manner, befitting of a gentleman like you."
ပုရောဟိတလို့လည်းခေါ်တယ်ပုရောဟိလို့လည်းခေါ်တယ်
But now I have to try something else. You are like a religious advisor, or rather a minister that marries off brides and bridegrooms.
အဲ့ဒါလို့လက်ထပ်ပွဲတွေကြားလို့ရှိရင်ဗိဒ္ဓိဆရာဟာသူကလိုက်ပြီးတော့ဗိဒ္ဓိဆရာအနေနဲ့ပေါ့လေဆောင်ရွက်ရတယ်လို့ဗိဒ္ဓိဆရာနေရာနေပြီးတော့ဗိဒ္ဓိဆရာလောက်တာတော့အများပြိတ္တအများမြင်မှာတော့ကြည်ကောင်းတယ်လို့တစ်ချိန်မှာအဲ့ဒီဗိဒ္ဓိဆရာကိုယ်တိုင်သရိုးသားဖြစ်သွားတယ်လို့အဲ့ဒီအခမ်းပွဲအချိန်ပြိတ္တစုံတဲ့အချိန်ရောက်တဲ့အခါကျတော့ဒီဗိဒ္ဓိဆရာဟာသရိုးသားနေရာမှာမနေဘဲနဲ့ဗိဒ္ဓိဆရာနေရာကနေပြီးတော့သွားပြီးတော့ဗိဒ္ဓိမြောက်တယ်လို့အများအမြင်နဲ့တော့သိကွာကြသွားပြီလို့မှာ
You call him a minister or a pastor? You call him a minister or a pastor? Minister? Someone who marries people. Thank you. It's all very well for a minister to marry off couples, since he is performing a rite, a ceremony. One day, there was this minister who had been very busy performing all these marriage ceremonies. And one day, it was his turn to become a bridegroom. So, he went to the ceremony, and instead of taking his place as the bridegroom, he forgot himself and suddenly went up to the altar and conducted the ceremony himself. This would look very strange to the congregation that was present.
Solo the Vagaro Goa Bedisia solution or Bedisia Niama Ni Goa the Ruda Pite Kajalucian, the Rudania Niama India Tiny Val Bedisia Taluda, Yusure, Edrubiola Kajaro, the Gaia Doroli to Nale Dovare, now Malupa Wupia to Kandova, take on over in Okaja.
So the Sayadaw said, it's all very well for the minister to conduct the marriage ceremony for other people, but when he himself becomes the bridegroom, it's very weird for him to do it himself. It's very unbecoming, and he'll make a fool of himself in public. If one should try to play the role that one is required to do so at any particular situation. Well, this gentleman got the point, and he admitted his fault, his mistake, and assured the Sayadaw that this will not happen again. In fact, he turned out to be a very obedient student.
Loka ma pita de the Baba lady who pony at Biorava. Dema Adilu Pini de Lumasolo Babu.
Sayadaw was bringing up this example just as one of the very common phenomena that happens in this world. Does not necessarily mean that it's happening here.
Pira dia yogi level take dia ya lulu Tata Sana and Lajare Buguri so Benny never eat Piku level come a yogi Mishiba.
Since the yogis who are participating in this retreat are supposed to be people who are really desirous and wanting to understand the Dhamma, Sayadaw does not think that it will be possible for such a person to act in the same way.
Truda Niya Mave Jajanana Tiny Yogi Gigi Jive, Punya the time to Batavare.
Sayadaw considers that all of you here are just like bridegrooms in their proper places and brides in their proper places.
The last of Dollar Babi. Dagaro Bali or in a pate bit of body to show Logi Buddha, Shida Boguri, Leve, Jumata Parera. Now the Atu de Kama, go Logi Buddha lady, the Atu de Kalama, don't chat up. Era the cannot Joktin Tabobara. Jangam Yama Piatare Panyawata Yata Mukore Pinyawa Yogi Bogoga Bududa Adwe Jumalawe Miazikamu Mugo Yata Zagama Biota to Bogogedo Pia made Zagam Biota de Bogo, Dunya Kine have looked at it. To go die T20 of Bama looked at it. A legion machine. Edu the bomb you tire me, Jangam Yama, the time Piaba.
Furthermore, in addition, with reference to general knowledge and learning, there is another very interesting point brought up in the scriptures. Without doubt, there are many of you here who are pretty learned in the ways of the world and perhaps are quite experienced in certain branches of knowledge. In the text, it is said that when one is meditating, no matter how learned or experienced one may be, one should act like a dumb man. A dumb person is incapable of doing things out of his own initiative. He is incapable of doing things through his own genius, but it is very meek and obedient. Whatever the Master says, he will follow to the word. So too, a yogi should try to behave in a similar fashion.
ဒီနေရာဌာနမှာဘုန်းကြီးရဲ့သဘောထားလေးနည်းနည်းပြောပြစီဘုန်းကြီးရဲ့သဘောထားဟာငယ်ငယ်ကစပြီးတော့အခုအထိပဲကိစ္စတရားဆောင်ရွက်ရမှာကိုမပိုင်သေးလို့ရှိရင်မကျွမ်းကျင်သေးလို့ရှိရင်အလယ်လုတ်ပြီးတော့ဝင်ဆွက်ဖြစ်တဲ့အလေးမရှိပါဘူးကျွမ်းကျင်နိုင်နေပြီမဲ့လို့ကိုနဲ့မသက်ဆိုင်မှုဆိုလို့ရှိရင်လည်းပဲဝင်ပြီးတော့ဆွက်ဖက်လိမရှိပါဘူးသက်ဆိုင်ရာပုဂ္ဂိုလ်ကလူလားလို့တောင်းဆိုတဲ့အခါမှာတင့်တယ်လို့အကူအညီပေးတတ်တဲ့အလေးရှိပါတယ်
At this point, Sayadaw would like to talk about an attitude of mind which he has cultivated from a very young age. As long as he is not skilled or competent or experienced in any particular field, he will not intrude and try to manage affairs in any situation. And even if he may be skilled, competent or experienced in any particular field, he would not intrude into a situation unless someone requests him to do so as a form of assistance or giving aid.
ပြီးတော့၅ခုမြောက်ဣန္ဒြေထက်ကြောင်းတမာရိတ္တသနိမိတ်တေကာဟိနတမာရိတ္တသဝိပဿနာခဏိကတမာရိဤလေးနိမိတ်တေတမာရိဤနိမိတ္တကာဟိနသနမိတ်ဟောင်းအာယုံဟောင်းနိဟောင်းကိုယူခြင်းအသုံးပြုခြင်းဖြင့်လေတမ္ပါတိတိဘောနညာကိုပြည့်စုံရပြည့်စုံစေရမယ်တဲ့ဘုန်းကြီးတို့တရားထုတ်တဲ့အခါမှာတစ်ခါတစ်ခါထိုင်လို့ကောင်းတာရှိတယ်လို့ထိုင်လို့မကောင်းတာလည်းရှိတယ်မှတ်လို့ကောင်းတာရှိတယ်လို့မှတ်လို့မကောင်းတာလည်းရှိတယ်မှတ်လို့မကောင်းတဲ့အခိုက်ကြားရောက်ပြီဆိုရင်ငကိုကမှတ်လို့ကောင်းတဲ့အခြေအနေတွေကိုပြန်ပြီးတော့သုံးသပ်ကြည့်ရတယ်ဘယ်တော့ကဘယ်နေရာဌာနမှာဘယ်လိုအာယုံကိုယူပြီးတော့အားထုတ်လို့မဖြစ်သေးတဲ့သမာဓိတွေထူးခြားခြားဖြစ်လာတယ်ဉာဏ်လေးတွေလည်းထူးခြားခြားပွင့်လာတယ်အဲ့ဒီနည်းဟာကောင်းတယ်ဆိုတာပေါ့လေငကိုကအောင်မြင်တဲ့နည်းကိုပြန်ပြီးတော့အသုံးပြုရတယ်ပြန်အသုံးပြုလိုက်လို့ရှိရင်မှတ်လို့မကောင်းတာလေးတွေကပြန်ကောင်းသွားတယ်အဲ့ဒါဟာဣန္ဒြေထက်ခြင်းအကြောင်းကိုပါတဲ့မှာသူကပါနေပါတယ်
Coming back to the factors that will conduce to the sharpening of the controlling faculties, the fifth one is the attempt to bring about the completion of meditative insight through the using of the sign of samadhi, the sign of samadhi. The sign of samadhi here refers to the circumstances whereby good practice has occurred before. Good practice meaning good samadhi, good concentration, good mindfulness. As you all know, practice is an up and down affair. At times you are high up in the clouds in Samadhi land, and at times you're right down, really very depressed and not being able to, apparently not being able to be mindful at all of anything, being assaulted by kilesas and so forth. Now, when we are having good practice, when there is good samadhi and enduring and established mindfulness, one should try to register, try to note down in your mind the circumstances that led to this good practice. What was the cause of the good practice? How were you practicing at that time that led to good mindfulness and good samadhi? You note it down in your mind, and the next time when you get into a difficult situation, when you're down there, you can reflect on that. Oh, what happened? The other day I was having such good practice. What did I do? How did I work with the mind? And upon recalling that, one remembers, oh, this was the conditions, these were the conditions, these were the causes, that was the circumstances, there was energy, and so forth and so forth. And that is called making use of the sign of samadhi.
6 ခုမြောက်6ခုမြောက်ဣန္ဒြေထက်ကြောင်းကတော့ဘောဇဂန္နာကြအနုပဝတ္တနာတာယဘောဇဂန္နာမဉ္ညာဤအစိတ်အပိုင်းဖြစ်ကုန်သောဘောဇဉ်တရားတို့ကိုဝတိဇာလေးပါးတိသူဤအကြောင်းဖြစ်သောတရားတို့ကိုအနုပဝတ္တနာတာယစတင့်လျော်သလိုဖြစ်ပွားစေခြင်းအပြင်လည်းတမ္ပါရိတိဘာဝနာဉာဏ်ကိုပြည့်စုံစေရမယ်တဲ့
The sixth factor is the attempt made to bring about the completion of meditative insights through the development or cultivation or activation of the factors of enlightenment, the bojjhanga. Sometimes it's usually translated as the factors of enlightenment, but just now the Sayadaw gave 2 definitions. One is the causes that will bring about enlightenment, the causes of the causes that will the causes of an enlightened being. And the second definition is the factors that belong to the noble path and fruition consciousness.
ဒီဘောဇဉ်တရားတွေတစ်ချိန်ကြာလို့ရှိရင်အကျေဟောပါအောင်မယ်ဘောဇဉ်တရားတွေဖြစ်ခြင်းရဲ့အကြောင်းတွေလည်းပဲအတီးတီးဟောပါအောင်မယ်
In the near future, Sayadaw will deal at length with these 7 factors of enlightenment.
ဒီမှာဆိုလိုတဲ့အဓိပ္ပာယ်ကတော့ခါရခါယောဂီများတရားကအမှတ်မကောင်းလို့ပဲဖြစ်ဖြစ်အမှတ်ကောင်းဝင်မယ်လို့သူစိတ်ထဲမှာ Mamma Gaulo, Tin, Web Ship body. See Ali, Yoni, that she that. Edlo Yoni, a cameo, ma. Niti Aya, BT Pizzi that it, Yari, Naja. Uria Desi that it, Yari, Naja. A deep Yanya Pituzi, Nine, Yari, Jana Yare. Jana, we don't go back, Shushin Gigi. Two Jaya Tavido Tindin Lin Boli, Shumaya. A Shumaloshi, Bawananya Ha, to reach a pilla tate. Daga Bawananya, Bawana City, Nene Yo Yeni, a cameo ma. Uriata, Bidita was the Uriata was in it. Tamausia Tambos in the Bosin, Tumio, Pavoni, a mere pave.
In brief, Sayadaw would like to talk a little on the 7 factors of enlightenment tonight. At times during practice, a yogi might really be very down. One's mindfulness seems to have disappeared completely. Or at times it may really appear, or one thinks rather, that one's practice is getting to be pretty bad. Mindfulness is real sloppy. It's not able to pick up objects as it had been able to in the past. And one begins to feel depressed and discouraged. At that point of time, it is essential for the yogi to pull himself out of that sticky situation, to try to brighten his mind and get encouraged and inspiration. And this can be done by listening to a Dhamma talk, the Dhamma talks that can bring about piti, which is joy or rapture. Dhamma talks that can bring about effort. Some Dhamma talks can be inspiring, so one can begin to feel a renewed upsurge of energy. Or one can listen to a Dhamma talk that will bring about that's very informative, that can give you some knowledge about practice and about the nature of what's going on. So these 3 factors of enlightenment, of rapture, effort, and investigation or knowledge, is very helpful when one faces such moments of depression and discouragement.
Take you to Twara Mirashi. Eddie Camu, ma. Say, got take you along Ajiro. They are my raga. David near Machala. I will never say them, Matella, surely there. The Karakala yogi got Pung the Lulu, Shin the Lulu, never, Eddie Hardy, the sheet at there. Take you a bit of the idea, Mamma Pellepsini that day. Eddie Camu, ma. Patati, Tamari, Ubeka Saravali, posing. Tumba Puabia, CZ body, Pio, the alley hobby. Your mother had easily my. I think Mamma and Tidi Nini body. That don't tell that you let higher. The Karakam တရားကအမှတ်တိုင်းလည်းပဲကြိုးစားတိုင်းလည်းဖြစ်တာမဟုတ်ဘူးအေးဒီရသလောက်ပဲဆိုပြီးတော့ပေါ့လေမြတ်မြတ်လေးပေါ့လေဘဲမလိုက်ဖဲနဲ့ခက်မြတ်မြတ်လေးဒီလိုမှတ်ရတာလည်းရှိတယ်အဲ့ဒါလို့ဆိုလို့ရှိရင်မဖြစ်ဘူးသေးတဲ့ပညာဘာဝနာများဟာဖြစ်သွားတယ်
Once an inspiring Dhamma talk has brought about rapture or energy and knowledge, one should make use of the opportunity to try to focus the mind very clearly on objects of observation. One should try to look as carefully as possible so that the objects of observation become really very clear and lucid. That will help you to get out of a very difficult situation. At other times, however, the yogi may have some unusual experiences and as a result may feel really very exhilarated, feel a lot of rapture and joy in having this great experience, whatever it may be. As a result, there is a certain upsurge of energy and the yogi becomes very active, over-enthusiastic. You can see him or her beaming and walking around like walking on the air 6 feet above the ground. And the energy overflows and there is lack of control. There is an inability due to excess energy for the mind to concentrate on the mental and physical phenomena that arise in one's own body and mind. And even if one tries to, with that excessive energy, the mind will just slip off. It will not hit the target. Too much energy, it's too powerful. It will not stick to the object of meditation. It will just go off at a tangent. For such, the antidote for such a situation is threefold. One can develop these three factors, the three other factors of enlightenment, namely tranquility, concentration, one-pointedness of mind, and equanimity. The way to do it is by reflection. One certainly realizes that one is in this very difficult energy overflow situation. And you can reflect on the fact that, well, what's the point of trying to hurry? You know, the Dhamma will unfold of itself, and I can make it go faster than it is. I'll just, settle back and be real cool about watching. And that's one way of doing it, to be cool. Secondly, one can try to, and after one has, cooled down one's energy, one should apply this concentration in the sense that one should try to narrow down one's object of meditation instead of noting many objects. Cut down the objects of meditation. Cut down and concentrate more fully. Try to look more closely with the attitude of, well, I'll just try my best to be mindful of whatever I can. It's not necessary to follow everything. When I do that, in time the mind will calm down and I can resume my normal pace. Thirdly, one can also adopt a stand of equanimity, being really very balanced. Well, what's the point, of hurrying along? whether the objects are good or not, whether I'm making good progress or not. It doesn't really matter. What matters is to be at the present moment, to just watch whatever that is happening, whether it is desirable or not desirable. You must remember that a yogi has no preferences. A yogi is not supposed to have any preferences. To just have this choiceless and bare awareness of things as they come. So if one is able to cajole the mind and soothe it, then you will be assured that within a short time, wisdom will unfold in a very special way.
အခုပြောခဲ့တဲ့ဘာဝနာစိတ်ရဲ့ရော့ရဲဆွေးရုပ်သွားတဲ့အခါနဲ့ဘာဝနာစိတ်တက်ကြွတဲ့အခါမျိုးမှာတင်းတယ်လို့ပြုပြင်ပေးဖို့ကတော့ကမ္မထမ်းဆရာတွေပေါ်မှာအများကြီးတည်ပါတယ်ကမ္မထမ်းဆရာတွေရဲ့အခြေအနေယောဂီရဲ့အခြေအနေယောဂီရဲ့ပြောဆိုတင်ပြချက်တွေကိုကြည့်ပြီးတော့တင်းတယ်လို့ပြင်ပေးမှရပါတယ်ဒါတော့
Such situations of lack of energy, discouragement, disappointment on the one hand, and an overflow of energy, over-enthusiasm, and overconfidence perhaps, on the other hand. Such situations can best be rectified by the meditation teacher. If the meditation teacher is in touch with the students by listening, by having daily interviews and keeping track of their progress, he will be able to give the appropriate antidote for such situations.
ဘုလုံးခဲ့တဲ့ရဲ့ငင်းတဲ့ကစီရပဲယောဂီတူဟာကျူးစားပါးစားလဲအားထုတ်ပါတယ်ယောဂီတူမဟုတ်ပါဘူးတော်တော်ကြီးများပါတယ်စောစောပိုင်းကတရားတွေတော်တော်လေးတွတ်တွတ်လဲလဲနဲ့ပေါ့ဒီရှင်းရှင်းနဲ့သိလာတာနောက်ပိုင်းရောက်တဲ့အခါကျတော့သူစိတ်ထဲမှာတရားတွေကြာသွားပြီလို့ထင်တယ်ငါကကောင်းနေတဲ့တရားတွေအခုမကောင်းတော့ဘူးတဲ့စိတ်ပြည့်အားငယ်ပြီးတော့သူကလျှောက်တယ်တစ်ခါမှာတညာနဲ့တညာကူးစားမှာဆိုရင်ကုက္ကနီးနဲ့ကူးစားမှာဆိုရင်ယောဂီကနည်းနည်းဂတိကောင်လေးတွေဖြစ်တယ်မှမကောင်းသလိုလိုဘာလို့အဲ့ဒီလိုဖြစ်တတ်တယ်ပြီးပြီးသားလည်းမရှိဘူးခါတိုင်းဆိုလို့ရှိရင်စီးကလေးပြီးပြီးသားနဲ့မှတ်လို့အမှန်တရားရတာရှိတာတခါမကောင်းတော့သူတို့စိတ်ပြည့်အားငယ်ပြီးတော့ပေါ့လေတရားလျှောက်တာတွေကြားရတယ်
Some days ago there were a couple of yogis who came in very long drawn faces, looking very disappointed and discouraged. Their practice had been good so far. They've had wonderful moments of mindfulness where they will be able to be aware of objects in a very clear and lucid way. And then suddenly they felt as though something went wrong somewhere. The mindfulness seems to have become very sloppy, and there's an inability to keep track of what's happening, and things don't seem to be as clear as they used to be. And they came in with long drawn phrases and reported that to the Sayadaw.
တခါတလေဘုန်းကြီးကဇာဝနာဝဖြစ်တဲ့လောကီဥမာလေးတွေလည်းပေးရတယ်အဲ့ဒီခါတော့ကလေးငယ်တွေဟာလို့နှိုးစုကလေးအရွယ်ကလေးတွေပေါ့လေတရွယ်နဲ့တရွယ်ပြောင်းကန်နေကြလို့ရှိရင်နောက်ဖေးသွားတယ်မအီမသာဖြစ်တယ်လို့ဒီလိုဖြစ်ရတာဟာမိခင်အနေနဲ့ဆိုလို့ရှိရင်သားလေးကြည့်ရတော့စိတ်မချမ်းသာဘူးလို့ဒါပေမဲ့လို့ကောင်းတယ်လို့ အဲ့ဒါလိုမဖြစ်လို့ရှိရင်ကလေးဟာကျန်းမာရေးလည်းပဲကြီးတဲ့ခါကျချွေးတတ်တယ်အရွယ်လည်းပဲမကြီးထွားတတ်ဘူးလို့ဒီလိုစာဖတ်ဖူးတယ်လို့သူများလည်းပဲမေးဘူးတယ်လို့ပြီးတော့ကလေးကျန်းမာရေးနဲ့ကလေးအရွယ်ကြီးထွားဖို့ရာအတွက်ဒီလိုဖြစ်ပေးရတာဟာကောင်းတယ်လို့ဒီလိုအားပေးရပါတယ်ဒီမှာ
These yogis have been quite such self-judgmental. They have been judging their own practice and concluding that they are making retrogression rather than progressing in their practice. Sayadaw would, at that point, encourage them by telling them of a strange phenomenon that some of you may perhaps be familiar with. Babies, as you know, or young children, go through various stages of development. And when they have to pass through certain stages, when they are in the transition stage, they undergo a lot of upheavals physiologically. They seem to be very troublesome, they get irritated very easily, and they pass excreta at very irregular times. They were difficult to take care of. Now, they cry and they wail at odd times. They undergo a lot of suffering. The inexperienced mother, upon looking at such a child, would feel much pity and compassion for the child. But it is a common fact, it is a well-known fact, that children, or babies and small children, have inevitably to go through such a process. If they don't go through such physical or physiological upheavals, they will not be able to mature and grow up. And therefore, it is good to have to go through this, or else one will not make progress.
ဖောက်ပြန်တော့တိုးတက်ခြင်းလို့ဆိုရမှာပေါ့လေဒီဖြစ်ရတာဖောက်ပြန်တော့တိုးတက်ခြင်းပါပဲ
You could perhaps say that it is a sort of a perverted progress.
ဘုန်းကြီးကစာအုပ်ဖတ်ထားတာပါကလေးရောက်ဘူးတော့မဟုတ်ပါဘူးပြီးတော့ယဉ်နေတဲ့မိခင်တွေကိုလည်းဘုန်းကြီးကမေးထားတာပါ
The reason why Sayadaw came to know of this fact was because he read about it and he asked some others, not because he had fathered any child.
Ấy rồi đặc yogi mya chú ra bây giờ phải ta này nè cứ có nhà cái này bây giờ mà có mấy phi toa được chỉ ám nghe nè ấy đi khám mà cái linh nấu phi toa để kinh sai này vì sao vậy đi có một thằng mà bây giờ xem mà toa được chỉ lô về đi ra đi cả chú cha chú để toa mà ám nghe ra nè.
So Sayadaw would like to remind all yogis here never to feel discouraged whenever you seem to think that something's wrong with your meditation. Who knows, you may be just like the little child who is in that transition space of growth, who is in that perverted progression.
Cái này chuyện gì đó vậy, nó đi chả mà vậy, cho nên cháu này sẽ bị đó, hoa vô vậy, ta lâu nay phải trôi cháu rồi.
Perhaps we should stop today. It's almost time. Sayadaw will continue with the rest of the factors in another talk. There is a little correction about last night's talk. There was this story of the person who came to see the Sayadaw one day, and who was very learned in the Buddhist scriptures, and had done some practice, and was actually a striving meditation teacher. He had come to the yekta, the meditation center, to be a yogi, and as Sayadaw said, it was his practice to instruct yogis on the essentials of meditation practice, and tallying that with scriptural references. And so the Sayadaw used to recite the Pali verses or Pali statements from the scriptures, and would explain them to the yogi, so that all apparent differences between practice and theory could be reconciled. Now at that point, when the Sayadaw was making all those Pali recitations, this gentleman was trying to be a wise guy. He was trying to be a smart aleck. He was giving his interpretations of the Pali recitations that the Sayadaw was making, and he was trying to demonstrate his learning by giving the references. Oh, that Pali came from such and such a text, and so forth. And it was because of this attitude that the Sayadaw tried to prevent him from interfering in what was not his job, since he came in as a student rather than a teacher. And you heard the rest of the story yesterday.